50 years ago today, the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision legalized abortion. But 6 months ago, the conservative supermajority on the court overturned that ruling. The fight for reproductive rights and access in post-Roe America continues. Abortion rights supporters are gathering across the country for the annual Women's March with two marquee events, one in Wisconsin, where a special election in the spring will decide the makeup of the state Supreme Court and determine abortion access, and the other in Florida, where Vice President Kamala Harris will deliver a major address in Tallahassee. Joining me now, California Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, member of the House Pro-Choice Caucus. Congresswoman Jacobs, thank you very much for coming to the Sunday Show.
Thanks for having me.
So I want you to listen to what anti-abortion protesters are saying. Listen to this.
While the march began as a response to Roe, we don't end as a response to Roe being overturned. Why? Because we're not yet done.
Everything that happened before Roe, that was just the preseason. We always envisioned this day when it would happen, not if Roe would be reversed, but when. So to think that, oh, our work is done, well, our work just begun.
So, Congresswoman, you heard them, anti-abortion activists saying they're not done yet. What are you and Democrats going to do in response? What can you do?
Well, look, I'm glad they're saying that because it's what many of us have known for a long time. This was never about states' rights. This was about the extreme Republicans trying to pass a federal abortion ban. And we know that that's their goal because they've already introduced it. And so we are working on a number of fronts to stand up against the worst of what the Republicans are trying to do. I never thought I would say this, but thank goodness the United States Senate doesn't let anything get through that the House tries to pass because we still control the Senate. We still control the White House. So the worst of what the Republicans are going to try and do over the next 2 years, they're not going to be able to do. But in the meantime, House Democrats and the pro-choice caucus are going to be looking for ways to protect people in states already criminalizing abortion and to try and protect the other rights that we know the Supreme Court is going to come after, like the right to contraception.
I'm glad you brought that up because we know that in the last Congress, Senator Lindsey Graham introduced legislation for a national abortion ban. And I'm wondering, have you heard murmurings of or seen draft legislation from the other side to limit access to contraception?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we don't know all of the side deals that Kevin McCarthy made to become speaker, but I'm pretty sure there are some extreme abortion related issues that he promised to bring to the floor as part of his concessions to become speaker. And so we're very worried about the fact that the Republicans are going to try and push for a national abortion ban. Again, we control the Senate and the White House, so they won't be able to get it done this time. And look, I think even some Republicans are saying that this shows they haven't learned the lessons from the midterms, because I think it's clear that young people and women and really everyone is going to show up and turn out and vote against politicians who are trying to restrict their access to abortion. We saw it very clearly in 2022. And look, if these Republicans want to let their so-called moderate members have to vote on extreme abortion bans with no exceptions, knowing that it can't actually become law, I say let the American people see just how extreme they are. And I think that will be reflected in the 2024 election.
You mentioned Speaker McCarthy a moment ago. I want to put up a tweet that he sent up on January 20th, on Friday. He tweets, "Last week, we passed legislation providing medical care for babies born alive during abortions. You now have a Congress that is standing up for life." Congresswoman Jacobs, what's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, it's already the law that if a baby is born alive, they must be given medical care or else it would be infanticide. So the bill that they passed had nothing to do with actual changes to the law and everything to do with them messaging around false notions around abortion, because it's clear they don't understand reproductive health care at all. Trust me, I've had some conversations with them about it. But look, I think it's also pretty hypocritical that they say they're the party of life when in fact we've seen in the states where abortion is being restricted that it is worsening the maternal mortality crisis that we've already had in this country, especially for women of color. And so if they really wanted to talk about protecting life, protecting women's lives, protecting babies' lives, there's so many policies we could be putting in place to protect against maternal mortality, to protect against infant mortality. We're not doing any of those. Instead, they're doing these messaging bills that have nothing to do with actual policy and actually protecting life.
And real quickly, in the less than the minute that we have left, Vice President Biden will deliver a major address today in Florida on the White House's commitment to women's reproductive health care. What do you want to hear from her?
I'm so glad that Vice President Harris is going to be going right to take the fight to the extreme Republicans. Florida has one of the most extreme abortion bans with no exceptions for rape or incest. And I think it's incredibly important that we go there and we talk about the implications of that, the higher maternal mortality rates we're already seeing, the fact that people are not able to get health care that they need for things that are potentially not even abortion related, but because that medicine could be used for abortion. You know, when we were working on the contraception bill on the House floor, I talked about my own use of contraception and Plan B. This is normal health care that 96% of Americans support, and we should be treating like that. And I'm glad that Vice President Harris is taking the fight to Florida to carry that message.
California Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, thank you very much for coming to the Sunday Show.